So Izuku finally transfers the second user's quirk to Shigaraki, which causes this chain of events that causes them to both merge memories and relive moments throughout the series. But we'll get to that because quite a few things happen beforehand. There's a lot to talk about, so let's get into it. So, we're coming off of the previous chapter where we saw Izuku can barely move anymore because of the recoil from the second user's quirk, Gear Shift. He's been using it so much that now he has finally reached the point of full exhaustion and he can't really move his body anymore. That's why he's using Black Whip to the full extent, wrapping around his arms, not only on his dermal level, but also intramuscularly. He is wrapping Black Whip around his muscles, and this is how he's moving around, like essentially puppeteering his own body with this quirk. And it was decided that they were going to transfer the quirks of One For All individually to Shigaraki in order to defeat him from the inside out. Because in the previous chapter, somehow, some way, there is like a fragment of the soul or the vestige of Star and Stripe somehow still there in the ether, pointed out that there is still an aspect within Shigaraki's consciousness that represents Tenko, who originally Shigaraki was as a child. And prying this true, I guess you could say, or inherent, innate personality from Shigaraki is the way that you can defeat him without killing him, I guess, right? That's the plan. I mean, that's at least what was showed to us in the intro of season 6. Like, at some point, I don't know if it's literally going to happen, but in one way or another, they're going to, like, dissipate Shigaraki as a being, and then Tenko will come through. I don't know. But it's going to happen some way or another. Like, that's what Izuku is doing here, because he doesn't want to kill Shigaraki. So their plan is to break through the barrier that is keeping this aspect of Tenko hidden away. So they're going to transfer the vestiges to Shigaraki so that they can do it within him. And we know that, he can take the vestiges or the quirks of One For All individually because a couple chapters back, he took Danger Sense from Izuku, therefore taking the fourth user's vestige as well, since that quirk belonged to him. But another variable of giving Shigaraki these quirks, especially the second user's quirk, Gear Shift, is so that it can take the exhaustion and the recoil from Izuku and give it to Shigaraki. Since the quirk has been used, once you transfer that quirk factor to another person, then they will have the recoil as if they themselves used the quirk. I know, it's kind of cheating, but it is what it is. But regardless, Izuku can't really use Gear Shift anymore because, like we said, he's experienced the recoil. So he's at a disadvantage here speed-wise, and he's figuring out, like, okay, how do I deal with Shigaraki's speed? Well, I'll just use the 6 user's quirk, Smoke Screen, which we see Izuku use a lot in this chapter, like really putting it on display, because I guess it's giving N, the 6th user, like his credit, because, he himself said that his smokescreen is the least useful of all of the One For All previous users' quirks, and technically it is, but it's still like a good quirk, especially if you use it in the way that Izuku is. So it's just giving him credit and being like, you're not useless. And it's also, further building up Izuku as like, he's so altruistic. He's such a good guy. Like, he respects all of the quirks of the previous users. Like, he thinks they're all cool and he wants to all utilize them to their best extent, even the one that is considered least useful. So he's using Smokescreen to work his way around Shigaraki's speed advantage. Hey, real quick, guys, if you could also follow me on TikTok or Instagram, whichever platform you like to use more. I upload TikToks and Reels on there every day. So if you could really support me, I'm trying to get to 10,000 followers on either of the platforms. I really appreciate it, guys. Thank you. And he's also figuring out a way that he can forcibly transfer the second user's quirk to Shigaraki, because the way that One For All works is that, yes, you could pass it on to somebody, but you need to give them your DNA in some way. We saw originally All Might gave like a piece of his hair to Izuku and then he ate it and then he got it. But obviously Shigaraki's not going to eat a piece of Izuku's hair because he knows that Izuku is up to something. He knows that he's planning something right now. So the plan is that Izuku is going to pierce Shigaraki, create a wound in him. And this is going to be difficult because Shigaraki has the regeneration quirk, so he can just instantly regenerate. So he's going to have to pierce him, and then at that moment, get his own blood, like Izuku's own blood, into that wound, and then that will transfer the second user's quirk to him, because One For All can be transferred forcibly. Like, the only person that needs to consent to the transfer is the user of One For All, not the recipient. So yes, I know, very gross, but, we are in the final battle here, and the fate of the world is on the line. So, you got to do what you got to do. And also, this is like a war that has been lasting over 100 years. So, if you need to transfer some blood in an open wound, then you got to do what you got to do. So they start going at each other again, and Shigaraki is about to activate Decay on the ground to just destroy everything, because it can spread as he touches things. But Izuku uses his Black Whip chain to pull a whole hunk of the ground out. But first, guys, GamerSupps has a huge drop. They're dropping Season 5 sweatpants, gamer bag, hoodie, a Space Punk snapback, a Weeb tray, and my favorite, the Season 5 mouse pad, which I actually have. This thing is really wild. It is incredibly aesthetic, but also incredibly risque as well. I mean, I'm almost speechless just having this thing. It's pretty amazing, and I don't really think this stuff, especially the mouse pad, is going to last long. So grab this stuff while you can, guys, because whenever this waifu stuff drops from GamerSupps, it usually sells out very fast. Also, make sure you pick up some GamerSupps too while you're at it. And of course, as always, please use code BIGZ for 10% off of your purchase, and I'll have the link in the description. Thanks, guys. So that only that piece will be decayed and it can't further spread to the other pieces of the ground, which of course is the strategy that they were using inside of UA, the anti-decay system as it was called, back when this whole final battle started, when they were trying to, detain Shigaraki inside of that dome. And while Shigaraki is remembering back to that, his danger sense goes off and he's thinking that, Izuku's behind me, despite him being in front of me here. But no, it's actually Gran Torino's cape that Izuku launched at him from behind, going through the smoke screen on a Black Whip tendril. And Shigaraki gets duped by this, and he grabs Gran Torino's cape and just decays it. So Gran Torino's cape, unfortunately, is gone. It's been around for a while, but it was tattered. And I don't know, maybe Izuku will get another costume upgrade or something, but it's definitely being used in a very suitable way here, because on the Black Whip itself was the second user's quirk factor, or an aspect of the second user, because Shigaraki is using two quirks in order to counterattack the cape coming at him here. He's using Search, which allows him to know people's locations and their weakness if he has seen them, and he has seen the second user because he can see Izuku's vestiges. He pointed out before, I can see your ghosts, and since he could pick up on that, and the Black Whip tendril has the second user's quirk factor in the blood, and also has his DNA in there. I know, it's like the vestiges DNA are in Izuku's DNA now, because part of them is in the quirk factor of One For All that is inside of Izuku. Yeah, it just works that way. So all of this together allowed Izuku to dupe Shigaraki in a pretty cool play here. I really like when Horikoshi is able to utilize strategies like this using multiple quirks, not only for Izuku but also his opponents, and we wind up getting really cool sequences like this. So Shigaraki getting duped here allows Izuku to get the upper hand on him, and finally it creates an opening where Izuku can punch Shigaraki in the chest using the strategy that we talked about, where he's going to break him open, create a wound, and Izuku has already been covered in his own blood, like he's been leaking. And his punch goes into Shigaraki's chest with his blood on his hand, and now he has successfully transferred the second user's quirk to Shigaraki. And as the second user, Kudo, goes into Shigaraki, he's like, don't worry about it. I've always just been a ghost. My consciousness is fading away, but before I get absorbed by Shigaraki, he, like a meteor, goes in to the void, crevice thing where Tenko's personality or whatever is going on with Tenko is being held back by like rubble and buildings and stuff. And he like breaks through it. And this like physically affects Shigaraki. He's like, oh. And after the second user does this, it somehow causes this chain reaction to where not only Shigaraki is experiencing memories from the past, but Izuku is experiencing them as well. Like we see the moment when Shigaraki met Stain and Toga in season 2. Also, it kind of reminds me like how far Toga has come as a character, because she was like really, I mean, forgive me for saying it, but really stupid when she was first introduced. Obviously, she's not stupid now. She's one of the better characters in the series with tons of character development and progression and everything. But man, Horikoshi really did a revamp on her, a much needed revamp. But we're also seeing during the sports festival when Izuku was facing off against Shoto, when he was like forcing Shoto's character arc there, where he was like, you know, I want to be a hero too, and finally gave him a reason to use the fire quirk, which he was holding back from using, you know, for a majority of his time in the series up until that point. But not only that, we're also seeing Spinner. Spinner's there because, you know, Spinner is like Shigaraki's boy. Like they have this subtle bromance going on, which unfortunately isn't explored too much, but it is there. It is explored, but I just wish they had more moments together of being bros, you know? We only kind of really see it in flashbacks. But Spinner, you know, originally came to the League of Villains the same way that Toga and Dabi did, because Stain inspired them. You know, as we found out, of course, later on, that there was much more to it than just Stain for Dabi. Now we're seeing, like, Shoto and Spinner there, like, their memories are, like, taking, like, some kind of form in this battle here. And the first user, Yoichi, is like, your memories are blending together? And then they're like, no, don't stop. And the sixth user's like, you know, it's working. The second did it, but it's still not enough. You have to keep going. And that's where the chapter ends. So the plan going at this point is, I assume, you know, as the narrator says, that keep the transferring the users, is that, you know, like we talked about, I think 2 chapters ago, maybe, or maybe we talked about this at the previous chapter review from 2 weeks ago, that Izuku will have to transfer all of the vestiges to Shigaraki in order to defeat him. And I thought that was a great way to have them all do their final moments here. And, you know, a cool way to get the most out of One for All in the end. And every time he transfers one of the vestiges to Shigaraki, I guess we're going to unlock more memories, like more moments from the series. And of course, it will eventually get to the point of where Nana, the 7th user who has the float quirk, needs to be transferred to Shigaraki, because she is Shigaraki's grandmother. And they never really had a heart-to-heart yet, because Tenko, before he became Shigaraki, really admired Nana. And I think this will finally unlock the memory that maybe he was suppressing, where we saw many chapters back where it was subtly hinted at that All for One was the one who gave Shigaraki the decay quirk, because we see him, or a person that looks like him. I'm pretty sure it's him. All right, it's freaking him. I don't care. He dropped off Tenko to his mother one day. Like, he just found him outside and then brought him back to his mom. And I think it was at that point where he transferred decay to him, because it suddenly awakened in Tenko. Because Tenko was like 5 years old. And at that point, if your quirk hadn't already manifested, then it means that you're pretty much quirkless. So the fact that it just randomly manifested and conveniently killed this whole family was a part of All for One's plan at this whole point. So I think that the transfer of the vestiges is going to unlock this, and then maybe it will have the moment where Tenko is able to break through Shigaraki at some point. But there's still a lot of fighting that has to happen before that. And I don't think it's going to be that simple. There has to be some kind of epic ending here where, I don't know, Izuku hits him with like the world of Smash or something, or the galaxy or the universe of Smash, something like that. It has to go obviously beyond United States of Smash. But let me know what you think about this in the comments, guys. And if you liked it, please give it a like and please subscribe if you haven't already. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.